Hi, good morning and good afternoon to everyone. Just to reiterate Jill's comments, please do enter the questions when they come to you. We'll answer them in the order in which they're received. If past is prologue, we've always had quite a few questions, so be sure to get those cards and letters in early. Our agenda this morning is going to be very simple. We're going to start off with a product overview. That's what I'll be doing. And more importantly, Carol Dmitrieff will then be demoing the various parts of the new Iron Speed Designer V10.0, and then we'll stop and take questions, and we'll be online as long as necessary. I like to call version 10.1 Nick's release because we had a customer named Nick who came to visit us a few months ago. And before he came out, he said, you know, there are a bunch of things about Iron Speed Designer that are really difficult to use in a team environment. So he sent us like this 8 or 10-page letter beforehand articulating all of these various issues he was having using Iron Speed Designer in a team environment. You know, he's got a development team of 6 or 8 guys, and they check code in and out of Team Foundation server and so forth. They're just having all these various issues. So he came out, and we went through those kind of one by one. And suffice it to say, a really good portion of version 10.1 is in direct response to all of those issues he had. I think you're going to find that Iron Speed Designer 10.1 is a lot faster and a lot more flexible in a team development environment. So let's talk about a few of those things. First is the overall performance of Iron Speed Designer has been greatly improved. It's a little bit hard to put a numeric quantification on the performance, but to suffice it to say we've made performance improvements all across the board, everything from opening up an application all the way through to the compile and build process. And again, a lot of this is in support of very large applications with many hundreds of tables, lots of pages, and in a team environment. You'll kind of have to try it yourself to see where you see the speed improvements, but the early feedback that we've had is that it's quite good. The second, as I mentioned, really were these team environment issues, where our friend Nick had this problem where folks would come in the morning and they would do a get latest from the Team Foundation server, the source code control system that they use, and all of a sudden a whole bunch of files would come in and they'd start the compile in Iron Speed Designer and basically have to wait 20 or 30 minutes, and they'd go off to the break room and spend more time there than they would working. And so what we did is we introduced for Nick a new feature called the Build Current Page Only. So even if you get all of the files that have been updated by your colleagues, you don't necessarily have to build those to get a compile. You can just build the current page that you're working on. Everything else stays the same, and you're good to go. Of course, at any point that you want to compile all of those other 57 files into your application that your colleagues updated the previous day, you can just do a build or a rebuild all and do that. But it gives you a lot more flexibility to just build what you're working on and kind of ignore everything else that other folks have checked in. The second problem is that in his team environment, different folks were using different versions of Visual Studio. I'm not quite sure why that was the case, but nevertheless, that's the situation that he had. Moreover, they had different versions of the .NET framework installed. So we've made Designer a lot more flexible. You can mix and match. You, on your machine, can pick your version of Visual Studio and the .NET framework version you want to use. The guy in the next cube can pick the version of Visual Studio and the .NET framework that he wants to use. The only requirement is that it has to be a legal combination of .NET framework and Visual Studio. But nevertheless, you guys can mix and match. Of course, when you get ready to do your final production build, the thing that you're going to roll out and put to production, you of course want to pick the right .NET framework that matches your production environment. But while you're under development, you can mix and match. We also improved the overall performance of the generated application, but more importantly, give you a lot of control now to override certain decisions that we might make. Those of you who've been Iron Speed Designer users for quite a while know that the standard queries that we generate retrieve all of the fields from a particular table. That's fine unless you've got a really obese table, you know, one of those suckers that's got 150 fields and 20 different blob or image fields out of that 150. Previously, Iron Speed Designer, the application would fetch a record and all of its associated heft. Now what you can do on a query-by-query basis is go in and adjust the particular fields that get fetched by that query. So if you were on a page and you're only using 10 or 20 of those fields out of that 150, you can exclude out or deselect the other 120 or 30 fields that you don't want, and so you won't pay the penalty of the read to read all of those extra fat fields into the code and proceed accordingly. Now moving on to the generated application features. Probably the most often requested feature that we've had over the years is the many-to-many feature. Being able to detect a many-to-many relationship, kind of like what we have here where we've got our sales representative. You can see Nancy Anderson here. And then if you see down here on this table, it says sales representative roles, and there's a set of roles. And so what you really want to do is select which roles she has. So you just go click, click, click to include or exclude, click Save, and that's all there is to it. Iron Speed Designer will create these many-to-many panels automatically for you. Of course, you can decide not to use them, but they're there, and certainly an important new capability. Now, we've also enhanced the new filtering system accordingly. That's what you get when you go over here and you click the Filters button, and this pop-up panel appears. You'll notice that we've got this new filter here that says Show All or Show Included for roles. That's this particular table or field here. And so what this allows you to do is filter or select for display either everything or just what's been selected. Okay? And so that's also a standard feature in 10.1 applications. Now, you might be interested about how this particular tab comes to be. Well, in this case, we actually have a sales representative table, and we also have a roles table. And so the many-to-many is really the join or the union of those two things, if you want to think of it that way. And so that's actually how we formulate the tab name. It's actually the table, the first table name followed by the second table name. Of course, that's all editable, so you can change it to whatever you want it to say. But when those appear where it's really the joined or concatenated two table names, that's what's going on there is the many-to-many panel has been created for you. As I mentioned, Iron Speed Designer automatically detects the presence of many-to-many relationships, and it does that using the foreign keys that are in your database. So typically you'd have a table that might have, you know, a parent table, if you will, or a child, depending on how you want to look at it, that has two foreign keys pointing off to each of the two tables that are going to form the basis of this many-to-many panel. You can also use these many-to-many panels from the toolbox, dragging them onto existing pages, and you can use them just about in any context where a many-to-many relationship actually exists in the underlying database. Now let's move on to new page styles. As is our common practice, we typically introduce a handful of new page styles with each release. Page styles are kind of like fashion. You know, the hemlines go up and they go down, and so accordingly the page styles have to change as well. So we're adding 3 new page styles in this release. The first of these is the Chablis page style, and you'll find it to be a very Windows 8-like interface or color scheme, if you will. And in keeping with the new Windows 8 style, you'll find that these new page styles we've added are less 3D. They're kind of 2 1/4D, if you will. There's just a little bit of height in the third dimension there, so they have a flatter overall feel to them. You'll also find that the header areas up here, that's where your company logo and the menu is located. You'll find that the header areas are fixed. So as you scroll up and down the page here, the contents of the page will scroll underneath the header, leaving the header fixed on the page at all times. That's what we mean by the fixed header down here. These new page styles also use Google fonts, so you'll see a little bit of a different font style amongst these than what you would with previous modern styles. Next up is our Sauternes style, which of course is deliciously sweet. And again, it's got the more muted colors, fixed header, and so forth. You'll also find the logo here is split across from the logo area into the menu area, so a little bit of a different header style there. And finally, we have our Vinho Verde style, kind of a nice crisp wine there, and you'll see that it's got a semi-transparent header. So this header up here, you can't really see it on the slides, but what you'll see as you scroll is that you'll actually be able to see the page content scroll underneath the header, and you'll be able to see, because it's a little bit transparent, you'll actually see the content as it slides through or underneath the page header. Next up is designers' ability to now initialize the foreign key relationship on add record pages. So you've got an add record page here. You're underneath here, you're clicking add because you're going to add a new record here to the products, right? So you can barely see this, but it says products here, right? And what we want to do now is add a new product to this category. So we click the add button here, and that pops up the add products page. And you'll notice here that the underlying category is already assigned, even though this record does not yet physically exist in the database. That record, for whatever product name we type in here, will only come into existence when we click the Save button, and that'll commit it to the database. And so we're kind of pre-filling the category name there, which is represented by the foreign key relationship. Maybe amongst you diehard designer users, the most popular feature might actually be an enhancement to a feature we released in version 10, which was the new quick selector. Iron Speed Designer will now generate quick selectors only when you actually request them. So instead of blanket generating them for all pages, all situations, we only generate them when you want. And Kira will go through a couple of examples in terms of how you set that up with a combination of defaults in the application option, generation options, and in the property sheet. So you can actually mix and match. You can flip from one style to the other. And again, if the style is set to drop-down list as opposed to quick selector, then you're not going to get the quick selector generated. You're going to only get the drop-down list. The reason you might want to do this, of course, is that if you've only got a handful of items, 6 or 8 items to pick from, because it's a, just a small table with just a few entries, drop-down list might be the quicker, easier route than the full quick selector. So in many cases, you might use the drop-down list there and then only use the quick selector when you want. The important point is you've got full control over this now, so it's really up to you. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Kirill, and he'll take you through the guided tour of Iron Speed 10.1.
Hello, everybody. I noticed that I will install all my Thunder completely, even all my lines I had for myself, all already set, so I just can show. So let me first show my screen. My screen is there. I just clicked it to switch to show my screen. Oh, you see me. Okay, so here is the 10.1 designer running. And what I will do, I will start creating a new application, which is, of course, dangerous thing to do during the presentations. Something can go wrong. But anyway, so as Al mentioned, there are 3 new themes, Chablis, Vinho Verde, and Sauternes. And I will start with Chablis. Before I create application, what I'll do, I'll click this options button. I know that not even all the users who have been using Designer for years notice that there is an option button. But sometimes it can kind of pretty useful. what it does, it opens your application generation options dialog, which allows you to pre-configure options before you create application. So in this particular case, why I decided to do so is I wanted to show you that you can have, for example, quick selector control. It was the last feature Alan mentioned. Configure it as, the selector control configure it as quick selector, as it's done by default, or you can switch it to the drop-down list, as I would do it now. And I will do it to demonstrate that when I create application, I would not get any quick selectors at all. Well, although it might not be the ideal options all of the time, but again, sometimes if your tables are fairly small, as Alan mentioned, you might not need to have quick selector at all. A lot of people prefer to have a short drop-down list, for example, for, I don't know, list of countries, if you select your address, or anything like this. So let me start with that. I will use my standard test database, and I would select several tables such as categories, customers, maybe orders or the details, products, roles, sales, well, basically almost everything. I'm not sure it's shippers, so, but anyway. And with that, let me just go and create application. It would be number 55. When I'm creating it, you can see that I have a choice of selecting different languages, application types, frameworks, and Visual Studio solution file type. So in this case, I have default 3.5 framework and Visual Studio 2008. I can select 2010, which I also have installed, and then it will be different project type. What is interesting, you can actually change it after you create the application. You can open and just change the solution file type on already application running, and just rebuild it, and it will recreate the solution file. By doing that, what you achieve is flexibility, switching from one Visual Studio to another. For example, you installed or purchased the new version of Visual Studio 2010, for example, in this particular case, if I use framework 3.5, and you want to use from now on this new Visual Studio, nothing could be easier. You open Designer, and you just switch it to the new Visual Studio type. What is unique, actually, in this case, is you can go backward, meaning that you can downgrade Visual Studio. Why would you do this? Well, sometimes it's pretty useful. The example of when this thing could be useful is when, for example, you have a team, and some of the people have Visual Studio 2010, and some of them only 2008. So those, new guy, for example, coming to the computer which has only 2008, you don't want to buy additional license of 2010, so we can easily just downgrade from 2010 to 2008 solution, and this particular person can easily use Visual Studio in his development, which is not required, by the way, but it sometimes could be useful, for example, for debugging when you write your new custom code, if you do so. And honestly, writing the code, if you need to write a code, is easy in Visual Studio because it provides you the IntelliSense, which is a powerful tool helping you to develop. So now, when the application has been built and created, of course, there is something was wrong, and I can switch back to application which I had before. I have no idea what is actually wrong, but let me just do something like this. The whole compilation didn't run, and I'm not sure why, but what I will do back, I have my, just in case, the way to deal with it, to go back, but we just try to rebuild it all. It's actually running the version which I had before I left the vacation, which was pre-release version. And I think it's the same as the release, but maybe it's not. But give me a second, and I hope it will. Oh, my bad. Again, I might have, I might not change the application version name when I was created it, and it looks like it might be not right, but actually, I think it's all should be good now. Let me try to run it. You know, the presentation is the thing when if anything can go wrong, it will. But fortunately, I was able to fix it pretty quickly. Of course, I will check later on what could went wrong. And again, this designer copy was used for some time, and maybe while I was talking, I didn't select something properly. But anyway, so here we have the application, and what I wanted to show first is that if I open any of the folders, you won't see any quick selectors page created, because my default option was to use drop-down list. And now, if I go to any of the pages which use any selector control. For example, if I go to, let's say, order details, add order details page, which has 2 foreign keys, this page would have 2 drop-down lists right here. Now, imagine that in this particular case, in my order details page, I have a lot of orders, and this is the case actually. I have a lot of orders. Some of them have the same display as text, so maybe in this particular case, not all of them will fit, so I want some powerful selector control. So what do I do in this case? Well, nothing could be easier. What I will do, I will go to my design mode. I'm on the add order details page. I will select my order ID, and this is the drop-down control right now. Oops, let me do it a bit smaller designer so you can see my properties over here. I will just make it, because I know that very often not all my screen which has pretty big resolution can fit it. So I want to make sure that right now you can see all designer. So slightly resize it. So now let's say if I go to my properties sheet, I can see that my order ID is control type is drop-down list. What I can do here, I can just go and select a new control type. In this case, it would be quick selector. And so I can do it on the control by control basis. And after I click OK and build my page, you can see the 2 files was changed, and 4 the Visual Basic files were created. Why it is so? One file which has been changed is my add order detail, but also on the orders folder, I've got new page, and this is orders quick selector page. So this page has been created for me on demand. As soon as I requested this control on my page where I call it, and if I go to the page, you can see that this page will show right now different control type. It won't show for my orders anymore drop-down list, and instead it will show my quick selector right here. So this is the quick selector control. I can click it. I can select controls. I can search for my order, so it's a different control now. And it created the quick selector control over here. So for those of you who were using Designer for some time and migrated application, that could be pretty useful. For example, for migrated from the older versions, because your older version, the application you use already on your production environment, obviously didn't have any quick selector controls. It had drop-down lists. So when you migrated from version 9, for example, or version 8, you actually don't use at this particular point any quick selector controls, well, because it's migrated application. So nothing will happen. You won't create them as well. So you won't get any pages that you don't need to use. But then you can go one by one for those controls which use really a large set of data and change them one by one. But of course, if you create an application and you want to use this control, and I like it, it looks nice, it looks pretty, it actually gives you additional color to your page. You see, it's kind of give you some visual appearance. So I think it's nice control. So if you want to use them, nothing could be easier. Again, you can always go to Option Options and change globally the default control right here. So that was one of the things. By the way, speaking about it, sometimes you want the particular control pointing to this quick selector to use different quick selector because you want to modify it. Quick selector is a normal page. You can do the same thing with quick selector page as you can do with any other page. You can drag and drop items, you can delete items, you can configure it. So imagine that you want to have one of them specially configured for specific purpose. You can, of course, make a duplicate of it, or in this particular case, you can do it easier. What you can do is simply go to your property sheet right here and say, oh, you know what, from now on, this guy will point, it will point to a new page. I will call it quick selector 1 page. And basically, that's all what I need to do. When I build it, magic will happen. Quick selector 1 page will be created because designer recognized that you want to point it to the different control. So if this control doesn't exist, so now it's done. It's existed for you again. So that kind of makes your life a bit easier. Now, let me show you another feature, and that would be many-to-many page. Iron Speed Designer is able to recognize all many-to-many relationship automatically and create those pages for you. For example, on the Sauternes database, there are two cases when a page has two foreign keys pointing to two different parents. So one of them is the obvious choice for this particular page type would be a relationship between sales representative roles and sales representative roles, which is the page which has nothing else but two foreign keys pointing to the sales rep and to the roles. So here is the page, and this page has not many. Actually, let me show you the schema. In this case, it would be more useful. So when I go to my database tab, on the database tab, the schema for this particular page, you can see that you have only two fields, by the way. It's just pure many-to-many relationship, nothing else. However, on this particular schema, on the Sauternes standard Microsoft sample database, there's actually one more page, one more table, which has similar relationship. It's order detail table. Of course, it has more fields, but the schema is similar in the sense that it has two foreign keys, order ID and product ID, pointing to two parents. So Iron Speed Designer, of course, cannot guess which particular one you want and which particular one you don't want to have many-to-many page. So it's recognizing this schema specificity, it will create for you many-to-many page in both cases. So right now, when I go back, and for example, I go to my orders, for example, table, right? Let's go to edit orders page. Let me go. Actually, you know what? Let me run it in the browser, just because it would be easier for me to show. I wouldn't need to start and refresh the browser every time in live preview. Sometimes running browser actually makes it a bit faster in the sense that it keeps your session, because live preview creates your session every time from scratch. However, browser keeps it. So right now, if I go in my browser to my, let's say show orders and go to the edit orders page, right here, I can see my many-to-many page, orders, products. So I'm on edit orders page. Let me scroll down. But here I have a list of products which I can select or deselect. So this particular order, I can see all my products. You see some of the products don't belong to this particular order. In fact, to this particular order, only which product belong. You can see here, on the order details page, I would see that there are only one or two orders belong. So how do I know which I belong? Well, you have filter for that. You can see here, go here and say that show me only those products which are already belong to this particular order. Now we can see this. So this order has two products selected right now. If I want more, what I need to do is very simple. I will show all, and when on the show all, I will just go and select whatever products I need. I can select a couple here. Then maybe I will need to go to the next page. I have a standard pagination control over here. I'll go to the next page and select. You see one of them already was selected before. I select another one. So now I have four. Three more products. It will be total of 5. The two first ones, so I can go to the pages. They are not disappearing. You know, they're saved for you. And then when I save it, those products are now selected. So now when I go to this page, I will see these guys that they are appearing over there. So that's many-to-many relationship. Of course, on the same application as I mentioned, the sales representative will get, if I go to any sales representative edit page, or show page for that matter, we'll get the many-to-many page over here. It has more than one child. It has orders, because I have foreign key pointing from orders to the sales representative. I have sales representative child, because I have foreign key pointing to the boss whom we report to, and my many-to-many page over here. And again, there are roles which has been selected for this particular sales representative. Okay, so as I said, Iron Speed Designer selects this type of page for you automatically. However, it doesn't mean that you cannot create it manually. Of course, you can. You can simply drag and drop a new page, and this page will be, and select the page type many-to-many. So basically, when you are in Designer, you go to Design mode, and imagine that I don't have this page yet, and I will go to my, let's say, self-representative, edit self-representative page. So right here, right now, I do have a bunch of children, but for the sake of this example, let's say I deleted all of them, and now I want my many-to-many page. So how do I get it? Well, Toolbox, always the place where you go when you need to get any new object. So you go to Reports and Forms, and if I go to my record control, I can see I get this node right here, many-to-many 4, and in this particular case it would be for my rows. It could be, of course, in theory, several many-to-many pages if I have a lot of different foreign key relationships. But again, I can just simply drag and drop this page from here, and it will be generated for you. Now, let me show you another feature, how we now pre-initialize foreign key control when you add new page from a child. Alan demonstrated that with the screenshot, and I'll just show you on the live application. Actually, we do it automatically when you create application, and we do this for you even when you create a new panel. So what actually happens? For example, let's imagine I'm on the which page I will select? Orders. Why not to go to orders page? So for example, I'm on the show orders page. Where's my show orders page? Right here. So let me go to the live page and show you. Of course, it will build something because I just deleted the page from the previous, from the, I don't remember what it's from sales rep. So it needs to build it, because it noticed that one of my pages changed. And of course, we have a feature now to build on the current page if you like. So now I'm on the orders page, and here's my many-to-many page. But I don't want many-to-many. I want the normal, actually, orders might not be ideal example because it has many-to-many. I need to drag and drop new panel. But instead, I will go to, let's say, show categories. Then I have many-to-many, so I have normal child products. And now I want to add a new product. So what I will do? You notice that I'm right now showing beverages. Of course, I can show any other category, but beverages was the first one. So now I want to add a new product for the beverages, and when I click plus button, you can see that my category automatically initialized to be beverages. So how does it work? It's very straightforward. You can actually replicate it at any moment yourself. It's nothing else but URL parameter which being passed through. So I will, if I go to show categories page, I will go to my panel and to buttons on my products page, and I can see that in my new page button, there will be action when I need to show properties, of course. On the properties for my new button, I will see that I have an action. On this action, it's nothing else but redirect, but this redirect has a parameter right here. It's already configured that it needs to pass category ID equals to the primary key. Of course, you can change this parameter as usual. You can go in right here, select another one, but the point here is that this is already done for you. And on the new page, we initialize all the foreign keys to the parameters similar way. So that makes your life a bit easier because, well, let's face it, when you create a new page for the child, you kind of expect that it already know who was the parent. Now, let me go and show something else. The new feature which allows you to have a smaller query on the very wide page. So, for example, if I go to my sales rep, well, on the south print, I don't have a pages with the 100 fields, obviously. But anyway, for example, let me go to my gallery page and demonstrate when it could be useful. Again, as I said, I don't have thousands of fields here, but let's say this example. Right here, I have a gallery page. And on this particular page, all information I'm showing is the image and the last name. So, of course, I can configure to show something else, maybe a title and first name, etc. But in this particular case, it was default built application. I have an image and last name, nothing else. However, if I look at my query, and how do I, by the way, this is the useful tip. How do I look at my query? Well, very easy. What I can do is I will go to my to build menu, and on the tracing and event logging thing, and I will say, show me my tracing. So what will happen right now when I refresh the page, I will see all the queries which generated for this application. I just need to scroll down. So you can see here everything what happened. And I can see that right now I have a query right here which retrieves all my fields from the sales rep table. You can see it retrieves sales rep ID, name, first name, email address, etc. Well, in this particular case, it's not needed because there's only two fields are used. It's last name and the image. And for example, on my sales rep table, there are a large field which is called, I believe, notes, which retrieved but not needed. Let me actually collapse a couple of things over here to make more place. So what I will do in this case, so I can see right here my query retrieves everything, including fields such as, let's say, notes. Notes is a text field, and it's a pretty big one. So why would I retrieve a field which is not needed right here and spend time waiting for the network to be occupied by a lot of data which I'm not really using? What I can do right here, I can go to my query wizard, go to my select step, and say, you know what, out of all of these, I want to only use, let me just deselect all of those which I don't. I want to use only last name and maybe photo, and I don't want to use anything else. And right now, when I click finish, my query will change. Of course, in this particular case, and I did it for purpose, it will tell you that, you know what, you didn't select primary key. What it means that without primary key, I wouldn't be able to go, for example, to edit page because I won't be able to find it. So in this case, I'll say, oh, no, you're right. I thought I don't need primary key, but actually I do need primary key because, well, in this case, my page will lose some functionality, so let me edit back. So it's smart enough to prevent some innocent mistakes, but now everything is fine. And now when I go to my live preview, it will build the page, and you will see the queries which are running right now, and you will see that all the three fields are being retrieved from the page. The page is still will be the same because I still have image and I still have my last name. So the field I need is still there. So nothing changed on the page, but the query changed dramatically right here. You can see there's only fields we select. So obviously, this way you can fine-tune any page you use and make it faster, especially on a very large table, especially in the case when you have large fields such as images or, well, image I use right now, so I can delete it right there. If I delete it, you won't see it. But for example, notes, which is a text field, or something else, especially heavy fields, could be removed. Now, let me show you another feature, which Visual Studio I already mentioned. So I just wanted to say that I can change it at any given moment. For example, I can go and do the following thing. I forget what. Visual Studio. I was thinking about next thing I want to show. So if I go to application settings, I can switch it literally right now. And by the way, you notice that there's a symbol of Visual Studio 2008. If I click this button, I will open 2008. So right now, if I just switch it to 2010, it will quickly change the project file. And after that, even my icon right here will change, pointing that my new Visual Studio is 2010. It doesn't need to change any code files. So you want your code or any pages you build won't be affected. They are not being changed at all. However, the project file and the solution file will be changed, and designer will recognize that my default object right now is new Visual Studio. Speaking about that, I also wanted to mention while it is building one more thing before I forgot about it, is the following. When we go to, let me select something, current Iron Speed website, we slightly changed the content of our version history in the sense that our release notes page, which always present for any version before, right now is richer, and it also lists not only the bugs reported which have been fixed, but also all the new features right here, even those which might not be mentioned on the what's new, something like this. So that's literally all of the features you want to know are here. And as well, it mentioned different changes which are maybe smaller scale changes, but they might be important for certain people who are waiting for this change to happen. So all of the things I mentioned are here. So I just wanted to say that it's useful to look there right now because something might change. Now, you can see that my icon here has been changed, and when I click it, it will open new Visual Studio. The prompt you have seen right now actually warns you that, you know what, Visual Studio might ask you to change the framework because 2010 Visual Studio actually uses the a different framework. I'm not actually sure I have it installed. I actually need to check it before showing. But it might, the Visual Studio sometimes takes time to open, and it's nothing to do with Iron Speed Designer. It has to do with Visual Studio. So if Visual Studio takes time to open longer than you expected, don't blame us. It's just standard application, and oh, okay, finally it's being open, and you don't blame us, blame Microsoft. Sorry, actually it's open twice because I was impatient enough to click it twice. But you can see that it's Visual Studio 2010 over here. Now the last couple of features I wanted to mention quickly is that one of the new features Alan mentioned, which allows you to build faster if you work only on the specific page. If you don't care about other pages in the application, if somebody else changed all your application with all the 2,000 pages and checked them in so they have different timestamp, but you really don't work on them, you just work on the particular page. For example, let's see the following. Imagine I'm working on the edit categories page. I'm not working on anything else. And let me go to design mode. So right now you can see I have here the browser, and I have here some tables below with the children. By the way, let me take off my logging because it makes the page huge. I don't want it. And it's slow as well. So now I will go here, and what I will do is I will remove my child page with my products from here. But I just, to make sure that to prove you that we change only one page, I also will do the following. I also go to add categories page, which is different page. And for example, right here, I also remove my products detail page. Now let me go back to my edit categories, right? And I will build now only my edit categories page. I won't build anything else. So what I'll do, I right-click it and say, build this page only. Don't build anything else. You can see that only one SPX page has been built. Everything was compiled, but the other page was not touched. So now when I go to my actually my live application somewhere, let it compile a bit. Now let's go to my live application and refresh this application. So I changed edit category page, but I did not build add category page. So now when I go to my edit category page, I should see only, so let me go to categories, my table control, and I will edit click edit on some of the pages. So now I can see right here, I don't have my detail below. I have only parent, no detail below. However, when I go back and click add on the categories, so let me do this. This is my add category page. The detail is still here because this page has not been built. So this allows you to build all the pages you need, and it makes it much faster. Plus, it's not just faster. Sometimes it's actually really convenient because, as I said, somebody else works on other page. And imagine that this person made an error on this page. This page doesn't build properly or it doesn't compile. What do you do next? You're stuck. Because, well, you need to find this person and call him somewhere and say, you know what, I just got latest code. This page doesn't compile, it can't compile my application, I cannot see it. So you're in trouble. But right now, it doesn't necessarily have to be done. You can just change your page, compile it. This particular page has been built, other pages you don't care. As long as your application is compiled, everything is fine. So even if somebody else did some mistake somewhere else, you are still fine, you can continue working. I want to show you last thing actually, you know what? I don't have much time left. I wanted to actually tell you that we made a couple of changes to the emails, but I'm not sure I have actually time right now to configure it. But basically, the changes we did is under the hood. What we did is that when your email right now is being compiled, it actually includes it actually includes two parts. It restricts JavaScript and includes two parts, text and HTML. Well, I wanted actually to configure email and send to my other email account, but instead of doing that, let me just go to my other email account. I hope it's still, I can open it and show you email I sent last time. I believe it's still there. So let me do this, because I already sent email from and then you can see what I mean. I already sent emails before my vacation, I believe, I hope. So let me go to my Gmail. It should be there. If it's not, of course, we can do it, but it will take another 5 minutes, and I believe we already need to go to your questions at that point. But I hope I still I didn't delete my last email I sent to me. Just give it a second. Okay. If I did, then I can, of course, go again through this process. Now it's Gmail slow again. Don't blame us. I don't know why Gmail is that slow, actually. I'm surprised. Okay. Anyway, meanwhile, while we're doing this, let me do very last thing. This was this Chablis theme, and as you can see, it is Windows 8-like. I want to demonstrate what is the difference was done for the Pinot Grigio with this transparency involved on the header and certain objects, because it might not be obvious when you see the screenshot on the PowerPoint, but you will immediately see it when I switch the application and run it in the browser. No, I don't believe I have any emails left. Well, okay, no, never mind. I don't have emails left. And again, believe me that when you send email to Gmail or to any other browser, any other client which allows you to show full content source of the email, you will see that right now we send email with two parts, the pure text part and the rich text HTML part. It will, of course, show as usual as HTML. However, you would be able to see the text portion, which allows you to have better chances delivering this email into the inbox, because a lot of clients kind of sensitive to this type of thing. They have their own pretty sophisticated logic how to treat email. Is it spam or is it good email? And one of the reasons why they can treat your email as a spam is they do not see the pure text part. So having this pure text part and not having JavaScript actually allow you to, now let me go here and refresh Control F5 on this guy. Oops, we'll get our Pinot Grigio theme, and okay, I need to go to some better page, show categories. So this is the Pinot Grigio theme. I don't know if you can see on your, I can see it on my browser. I'm not sure it's really visible, but it's actually semi-transparent. You can see these buttons like actions and filters and search box under the header. So you kind of go through it, and the header is semi-transparent. So this is kind of one of the things we added to this particular theme. There's also you can see transparency maybe here. Again, I'm not sure you can see it as well as I can do, but hopefully you can. So I just wanted to show this particular thing on this theme. So I believe I showed you everything, and I asked you to trust me about emails. Just too much time to spend to configure it right now. Now we're waiting for your questions. So, Jill?
Okay, this time I will be reading the questions, and either Carol or Alan will answer as applicable. Is the build button on the button bar the same as build current page only?
No. You can see we have actually build button is the regular build. What it does, it builds application, it builds all the pages which need to be built. What it means that it looks at the timestamps of the pages, and it sees if this page is newer than the last build. then it will build this particular page. But you have here a menu, build current page only, and it also has a shortcut, Ctrl F6. This will build only current page.
Okay, Chris asks, does many-to-many work in classic styles?
Many-to-many works in all styles. We can switch. I can switch to classic to show you, but yes, many-to-many works in any style. It's not style dependent.
Eddie asks, are there any plans to add an iOS CSS skin to mimic the look and feel of a native iOS application?
Well, I'm not sure what the native iOS application is in terms of the style. However, if you look at our roadmap, we do working on the feature which will create native iOS and Android applications. It's not really style dependent in a sense, because every application in the iOS, or I mean in the iPhone or in the Android device is different. But yes, it's one of the things we're working on.
Christopher asks, is the export to Excel performance increased? I have a report over 6,000 rows with columns pulled from many tables, which takes 3 minutes to display and another 3 minutes to export to Excel.
We did not change anything regarding the export or import facilities. So all the code which has been there still will be there. However, what I would say is that if you have that large data sets which you need to export to Excel, I would maybe recommend to writing some customizing code slightly, because currently the code does very simple thing. It uses the browser's facility to redirect stream to of a specific type to your computer, meaning that it creates the redirect type of HTTP response type of file with the extension of the Excel file, and which causes your browser to open this file as Excel. As you can understand, browsers are not really specifically designed to send very large files through this and save it in performance-wise. So it's not that the code which creates it that's slow. It's mostly the browser takes time. However, again, you can modify the code to, slightly to, for example, not include certain fields or do something like this. But we didn't change anything for the export facilities in this release.
Edward asks, there were problems with applications generated with version 10.0 running on Windows 7 with IE9. Is that resolved with version 10.1?
This problem has been resolved with version 10, basically. The problem is that Microsoft, with the IE, by the way, there is no problem with the IE9. The problems was mostly with the IE10. And the problem was with this particular browser has different way of addressing objects on the page. So basically what it is done is that every page right now, and this is starting from version 10, has this particular tag generated unless it runs on the framework 4.5. If the, not here, on the master page. If you run this on any other framework other than 4.5, page will always have this particular directive over here in the master page. IE compatibility is 7, 8, 9. This allows application on the IE10 runs properly, but there was never a problem on the IE9, by the way.
John asks, what is the difference between website for .NET and web application for .NET in application generation options?
So it's not actually in application generation options. It is in the application visa. Oh, sorry. You see, I clicked on button and immediately scanned the schema. Unfortunately, the schema was not large. Otherwise, it might take time. Here is the where you select website and web application, not on application generation options. The difference between website and web application is that web application, when it is compiled, it's compiled in one single DLL. Basically, in our case, it will be 3 DLLs because our application follows the MVC model, model view controller model, and our layers are completely separated. So you will see 3 different DLLs for data access layer, for business layer, and for the presentation layer. But presentation layer will be 1 DLL. In my case, it will call my up55.dll. And in web side, in the opposite to this, does not have the single compiled DLL for the whole application. In fact, when you open the website in the browser, the page is being dynamically compiled on fly. So basically, it creates very small, tiny DLLs for each page every time you open the page. Of course, it caches this after this in the temporary files, but the bottom line is that every user which needs to open the page will have this page compiled on the fly. That means that when you put application to production and you anticipate more than 1 user to see it, and hopefully if you put it in production, it's usually the case, the application is a better choice because this DLL is compiled already. So any user who needs to open application already used compiled DLL, so browser doesn't need to perform this job all over again. It's just plain faster. So that's basically the major reason. For that reason, web application has the project file because this project file is used to create DLL by the Microsoft compiler. Website does not have a project file, and the files are located in slightly different places in the website. Portion of the files, control files, code files, located in the special upcode folder while on the web application. All of them are sit in the folder where the ASPX file is. So that's basically the differences.
Christopher asks, Export to Excel Part 2. Given the long time for this export, users have complained that they have no indication what is going on or a progress bar to estimate time to complete export. Is there any way to add an Export to Excel progress bar?
I'm not sure how to, I'll answer differently. No, you cannot add the progress bar. But yes, there is a way how you can kind of check the progress of export or import in a sense. The thing is that when you start export, effectively at that particular point, you just call it expect response redirect command, HTTP command, to open the stream. And at that point, you cannot show some other object on the client side, such as the progress bar, because client side has no idea how much is happening on the server side. It's different sides. I mean, it's a bigger question. I'm not sure I want to go into all details right now. It's more a question about architecture of .NET and how .NET works. But the brief answer would be no, there's no easy way to do this. Or anyway, actually.
Mohammed asks, if we modify the query by removing existing fields which are on the web form, then will it delete those fields from the web form, or do we need to remove the fields manually?
Very good question. Thank you very much, Mohammed, for asking that. No, it doesn't delete for anything. It just modifies the query. So I can actually demonstrate it right now, or you can believe me, that if I have, it's actually easy. While I'm speaking, I can do it. So basically what it does, when you modify a query on any table control and remove certain fields, but those fields are still being used on your page, what will happen, those fields will become literally empty. So right now, I actually deleted everything except category and name. And right now, when I go to my, yes, I did it in primary key. Thank you very much for asking. Now, when I go to my preview and it builds, you will see that all the values would be empty. In fact, you might even see the error in specific cases, because what happens is that my data source, which is being populated from the table, right now will have just one field. Every other field will be null in data source. So basically, when you try to initialize those fields to the text or any other objects, they would not have any value. And but the fields are still, so now you can see this is the only one I have confections. You have no value here, you have no value here. But we don't delete anything. Never delete anything. Except our major goal is not to delete anytime, anything, unless you do it by yourself. And that actually dictates our design often, because often our customers ask us, why you do not magically modify something for me when I did this or that? Well, we tried not to introduce too much magic when this magic might suddenly change appearance on your page without asking you. So this is one of the examples for that.
Mohammed asks, what is meant by ignores bad database tables as the new feature in ISD version 10.1? What is meant by ignores bad database tables?
Okay, a good question. I would not demonstrate it right now, although I actually can. What it means is that imagine you have given a database which has some tables which are not properly formatted. Well, for example, we have seen schemas from our customers where they have a table without any fields in it. So it's table, it exists in a schema, but there are no fields, 0 fields. Well, a lot of databases will not allow you to create such schema. They will actually tell you in the manager that you have to have, will give you error creating this. However, there are the ways how to tweak a database and certain database type which are not having these strict checks and create such table. So at least we've seen these schemas. Well, you can't do anything with the table. It's incorrectly formatted, but it's there. Another example is that when your table or field names have incorrect symbols, which are not ASCII symbols, again, should not do this ever, but technically possible. In this case, designer will just skip this table and will not create any data access or business layer for this particular, no schema for this particular table. But everything else you can use. This is a new feature comparing to the 10, because version 10 has been creating schema for all tables. And if you have one bad table in the schema, this particular schema could not be used at all. So, for example, you are given a database with 1,000 tables, one of them is bad. You don't know what table is bad. You have no idea about it. You're creating an application with completely different tables, but designer would fail doing this because it would say, oh, I cannot process this particular table. Now, it will just skip this table, pretend that it's not there. So that's what it is.
Michael asks, ISD shows a field to display when a foreign key is referenced. How can I easily show both the primary key, example product ID, and the foreign key reference, example product name?
Well, it's not as easy as I would like that to be right now answering it. The thing is the following. When you decide to show objects from the foreign key table, basically, or which is display as, so meaning when you go to the, for example, right here, give me, oh, no, well, this is the foreign key, for example. When you have this type of formula, last name plus first name, right here, right? The query for this particular page goes to different table. So it's actually not using the particular your original table. So in a lot of cases, you can do this by a very simple thing right here. For example, you see sales rep ID, and this is sales rep roles. So what you could do right here is do simple things, something like this, in a lot of cases, but not always. And right now, right-click it and select from the sales rep, different table, sales rep ID. When this ID is the same, exactly the same, which is almost always, although there are certain exceptions, really rare, but exceptions, then you can just do this. Now you can see the ID and the name. So you in this case, your reading ID is not a primary key anymore. You're reading this ID is from the foreign key table. So you're not reading it from the original table. So it's not really the primary key. It's a foreign key, but it's the same. So you have the same value. So that's how you can trick it. So I have actually answered for it. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're at almost 15 minutes after the hour, so if you have any additional questions, please get them in as soon as you can so we can queue them up. Next question. There hasn't been any improvement on SharePoint reports and chart features. Are there any future plans to make improvements in these areas?
Yes, there are plans. That's all I can say right now. I cannot tell you what exactly will be done and how exactly it would be done because it's still plans. But in this particular release, you're right, we didn't change anything related to SharePoint.
Okay, everyone, I'm down to no more questions, so please get any questions that you have in as soon as you can. We have a question.
Oh.
Okay, I followed the example he showed, which with concatenated the key, but I wanted to show as two fields. This is Michael with an addendum to his question.
You wanted to show...
I followed the example he showed with which concatenated the key, but I want to show as two fields.
Ah, two fields. Well, then it's easy. You just drag and drop an extra field. If you want to show two fields, go to Toolbox and drag and drop the same field yet again. So you do this, you have already one field generated right there on the page. You drag and drop the same exact field from the Toolbox and change the way it's shown. You just remove the formula or change the formula. So basically what you do is the following. Let me go, for example, here, let's say product. So when I go to my product table, I will show category as a category name, not the ID.
He says when I did that, it showed the name in both fields.
I know. You just change it. Let me do this. So right here on my products table, I have the category ID, which is shown as a category name usually. But what I can do is I go to the Toolbox, and when I go to my fields, and the drop category ID, let's say somewhere, doesn't matter where, here I can go to formulas, and I need to modify that to something. Oops. Okay, for example, let me do this. Equals to, let's say, I just need to modify a formula anyhow, or actually better other way around. Any modification to this formula right now will cause exactly what we want. And then let's say space. Actually, after I do this once, I can even remove the space. I just need to modify it. After the formula is modified, it would not use the default formula from database layer. So the default formula which I showed on databases, display as, is used until you modify the formula on the presentation layer. Now it will show the ID. So basically, as soon as it compiles, we can go to the application, and I can show you that it shows the ID now, not the name. So right here, you will see ID. So you drag and drop the second one and do something to formula on the presentation layer. Basically, that's what it is.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that was our last question, and we're at nearly 20 after the hour. We thank you very much for your attendance this morning and your attention to version 10.1, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you and goodbye.